Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final episode of Into the Snyder-Verse. We are finally talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, the Snyder Cut, whatever you may call it. It's here. It's arrived. We've watched it all 4 hours, 2 minutes, and any number of
38,
seconds.
something like that. Sounds about
38
right.
seconds of
Let's go
its
with that.
glory. Is it glorious? Is it bad? Is it glorious? That's what we're here to talk about, folks. No doubt that you've watched. This is a spoiler review. So
Yes.
Spoiler full.
spoiler full review.
Spoiler
Yes.
Make no mistake. And make no mistake, in case you aren't familiar with sort of the dynamic of this, Tucker and I are sort of reticent on Zack Snyder, and Abram is one Zack Snyder loving fellow. And we've all watched the movie. So, boys, do you want to make an opening statement? What's our sort of what's our modus operandum here?
Tucker.
I told Tanner this. I was formulating my thesis in
Yeah.
the shower as I was showering a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fine movie,
Yeah.
but I would rather stub my toe than have my toe hurt for 4 hours. I would rather rewatch the 2017 Justice League movie.
It's a big call. He told me that just before we started recording, and it took me aback a little bit. It swept me on my feet. I got the wind knocked out of me, as one Mr. Flash might say.
Now here's the caveat there. This is a better movie than Justice League, but like it's not even
Bar
a
none.
contest.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I would certainly rather watch Justice League because that one respects your time. I know Abram, very big on movies respecting your time.
Yes, I
Quote
am.
from our Going My Way
Interesting.
review,
Yes.
in reference to The Great Ziegfeld, directed by Robert C. Leonard,
Yes.
starring William Powell. This movie does not respect your time, and I think it's very blatantly obvious.
So I hate to be the guy that says I just don't agree. But
Yeah.
I hate to do it, but I personally I did not feel the runtime personally.
Okay.
That's
Interesting.
very subjective because I care a lot about these characters. I care a lot about this world. So of course it's going to be easier for me to allocate 4 hours of my time to that. That said, I didn't feel the runtime. We can talk about pacing, and I can defend that a little bit more objectively in a minute. On the whole, this to me felt like 4 hours of Man of Steel, not 4 hours of Batman vs Superman.
Okay.
And what I mean is
However
this,
however that colors your opinions.
Well,
viewers
Batman
and
v
listeners.
Superman, for everyone who doesn't know, is Abram's favorite comic book movie.
Right.
He's seen it 7 times,
7
8 times, 7 times.
and the reason I say that is I think this is a better movie than Man of Steel.
Yes.
But the reason I say that is because there's not as much, for lack of a better term, a lot of people use it pejoratively. I use it positively. Pretentious Snyder. There's not nearly as much of that. There's
Okay.
not the Jesus imagery
There's
that
not.
everybody.
Well,
has.
there's a little bit of Jesus imagery. There's a little bit.
There's
But
a little bit.
there's not
There's
Jesse
wafts.
Eisenberg. There's
No.
not Jesse Eisenberg going on tangents about the gods and the devils, and the gods come from the grounds and the
Okay,
devils comes from
let's
the
move on to
skies.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Let's talk about
This is, I think, 4 hours of a very well told Snyder flavored DC film, and
Yes.
I really enjoyed it. I am going to be watching it again before we talk about it again on BLBS on Sunday,
Yeah.
because I want to have a more personal watch of the film with
A clean
headphones in.
version.
Yeah, a clean version, because I really enjoyed it. But I don't think initially it's gonna pass BVS, but obviously Joss Whedon owes Zack Snyder a handwritten apology.
I agree.
Watching these movies back to
But
back.
Reach around if you
I'm
will.
going to hold the audience hostage here. You cannot watch the rest of this video without liking and subscribing to Backline.
Oh shit!
You can't hear
Discord.
Discord as well. Yes. And also
Like
obviously
and subscribe to our Discord.
on Sunday we're going to be having a Snyder Cut discussion 2 with one Timo
Yes.
Nelson, who's not watched any of the other Snyder films in lead up to this. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if he's even going to watch this.
We were talking about it earlier. I'm not confident that he's gonna sit down for 4 hours.
No,
and
he's
fucking
not
watch
going
this.
to.
There's
But
no way.
regardless, we
If
have to
it's gonna
talk
be-
about
yeah.
the movie itself.
Yeah, Sunday's gonna be me talking about the movie for 40 minutes and just
Sure,
not letting
yeah,
anyone
okay.
know.
I'm
Okay.
gonna ruffle up my hair a little bit. Get ready for this.
So we start with a flashback to BVS. Superman dead.
Yeah.
We still don't get an accurate time frame for how long this takes place after BVS. That is neglected from us. I think it was also neglected in Justice League.
Yeah.
We get the very first scene that we actually get, of course, is Aquaman and Batman. Their meetup.
Yeah.
And boy, let me tell you, does it paint a picture for what the rest of this movie is going to be. the color grading is significantly unbrightened. It's in its original form.
Yeah.
It is devoid of all the stupid, cringy Joss Whedon jokes, so that's a plus. The characterization is therefore better in these scenes and in subsequent scenes.
Yes.
And it is a longer version of that scene. I think those 4 aspects really sum up what this movie is.
I've got to say, I don't know what I expected, but I expected this to be so ridiculously different
Yeah.
from 2017 Justice League. But it's really not. It's just the same thing stretched out, double the length.
It's just longer.
It's fleshed out, of course, because
Yeah,
they give
yeah,
more
yeah.
time to the characters. They introduce other plot lines. But this movie is not the turnaround that it should have been. The story is inherently not very interesting, and that was a problem in Justice League. It's still a problem here. It just fails on so many marks, and my energy is just draining as I think of how
long.
Oh my god, how long and unnecessarily slow and full of slow-mo in every possible sequence, every emotional moment, every fucking moment of action. They just fucking sit on slow-mo for no goddamn reason. And if you wanted to look at things, too fucking bad, because every goddamn shot, every scene in this movie is dark. Lights never on in buildings. It's always cloudy. It's always dawn. It's always evening. They're always in fucking Batcave. They're always underwater. There's one total scene in this movie that is daytime, able to perceive color and reality, where you can see people's faces in their entirety. You can see their environments. Everyone is in fucking shadow in this movie. In every scene, it pissed me off. I got so fucking annoyed. Holy fuck. It's so dark. It's so gray. You can't see what's going on half the fucking time. Holy shit.
Yes. Tucker
Holy fuck.
Tucker expressed to me numerous times throughout this runtime. I could see him getting more and more disheartened with the lack of color from scene to scene, with the shadowiness of the production design in every sequence. And I don't share Tucker's vigor for that critique, but it stands nonetheless. It is noticeable and bothersome.
Here's the thing. I see the fucking smile on your face, but it is a fact that they come up with some fucking excuse in every scene for it to be darkened. Lois Lane just sitting in her apartment, lights not on, she's fucking silhouetted. They're in the Batcave, they're underwater, they're a mountain happens to be covering the sun. It's cloudy, it's fucking nighttime in Gotham City all the goddamn time.
Here's the thing, Tucker. Even in scenes where we see the sun is out, it's still gray and
characters are still in shadow and everyone's in fucking silhouette, and holy fuck.
Abram?
Holy fuck.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack about what Tucker just went on, which filled me with this sort of passion that I wasn't prepared for.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of that is the look of Zack Snyder's films. I don't necessarily think that's especially different from what we've been watching already. And I like the style. I like the comic book contrast that his films evoke. I think part of what attracts me to his films visually is we're shaded in black. I think that's interesting. I've always talked about how Zack Snyder's films to me feel like comic book pages coming to life, and I think that visual character
fucking ink on the comic book pages.
Yeah, except that there's no color on the comic books.
No, but I don't necessarily think that's fair. I think that's okay, but I think that's the way Zack Snyder shoots, and I feel like it's
Man of Steel had light. Batman v Superman had fucking interesting sequences with color and visuals.
But this does too. I think Man of Steel really was 1.5 colors. I think that's very fair.
Black.
But I think the difference is that this is more artistic and interesting. I think that a lot of Man of Steel was just there's not really any shadows or anything. There's nothing's being cast. It's just a bunch of shots that look very flat. I don't think this movie feels flat to me. I do think that there is an artistic direction to how these things are shot, and for me, I find it compelling.
Well,
But let's talk about, because that's very subjective. That's a subjective point about the film's view. I really think that looking at Whedon's film, looking at this film, it does feel night and day, because sure, it's following the same plot beats, but the way I was thinking about it personally is that Whedon's film was like the shitty Spark Notes meme humor version of what Snyder was trying to tell.
Correct.
And I think that seeing it this way, it does feel night and day, because characters have motivation, they have backstory, there's things happening. The mother boxes don't just disappear. They're set up for what's going on with the mother box. How did he find them? Why is Darkseid here? Why is Steppenwolf here? What happened to Cyborg? What's Cyborg's relationship with the Flash being developed? These characters getting developed. I really do think that this is a humongous, drastic difference in quality. And even if you're following the same plot beats, they're told in such different ways, not only in terms of character arc, but in terms of just style, that it really does feel like a different film. And I think it's a lot more compelling, while I think retaining the more hopeful and comedic currents of Whedon's Justice League, which is put in a much better context. I think that was like a no context film. This, you still have a lot of the jokes, you still have a lot of the beats, but they're in the context of an actual story with actual characters that I think that respects the audience. Whether you think the runtime respects your time, this film, its depictions of the characters, the way plot beats move, I think this film is a lot more interested in telling you a story that's compelling. And for me, I really valued that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I you made a lot of good points in there. I think I'd like to at least travel down, the roads of each and every one of them. So we've torn apart the coloration of this film. Do we want to talk about the 4:3 aspect ratio, or is that just besides the point? It's a creative difference. Honestly, after about the first 10 minutes, I just didn't even notice it.
It's
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it very quickly left my memory.
Yeah.
I think, again, it's subjective, but I think the shots were framed very nicely. There's a couple that I think are just really beautiful. I think the 4:3 aspect ratio looks good. I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Especially because the film doesn't feel as heady as some of Snyder's other films want to be. I don't think this aspect ratio is as necessary. Like if BVS was in 4:3, I think that to me would have tracked a little bit better with what that film was going for. But it's fine. It's unnecessary, but it's fine.
I think for me, it just doesn't add anything.
Yeah.
It's a layer on top that's like, hey, look, this isn't like your fucking grandma's superhero movie. It's in 4:3. That's artsy. But most of the shots very clearly not designed for 4:3. Of course, action happens in the middle of the frame, but you can certainly tell in places that this was not. They cropped this. They letterboxed this. It was not intended for this aspect ratio. And I think in that regard, it does hamper some of the experience, considering that it's not necessary and it's just a layer of bullshit on top of it that it doesn't necessarily need. And it probably could have even benefited from that wider aspect ratio to feel more grandiose and not limited down to a smaller viewpoint.
Yeah.
But that's a very nothing point. Like it's not negative. It's not positive. It's just like,
what is there to say, really? What is there to say?
Why would you do that?
Okay.
But I'm not going to complain about it.
I want to talk about the Flash and Cyborg. Maybe in Justice League, maybe the most hard done by character and the worst character.
Yeah.
That being Cyborg and the Flash respectively. And in this, they end up being the two best characters, which is crazy to me. Which is absolutely insane, the turnaround that Zack Snyder's full vision had. I want to talk about the Flash first, because if you watch our Justice League video, 2017 Justice League, I hated Ezra Miller's Flash with a burning passion. I described him as a fuckwit, and I stand by that assessment of that character.
I called him a men's rights activist, and among other things. I was not kind to him either.
This character, however, is completely different.
I said the word weenie in reference to him.
He is that Flash is very much a weenie. But this Flash, first of all, great introduction scene. With the imagery of him him pivoting on his soles and his shoes flying apart, him stopping on the concrete and the concrete like crumbling and warping under his speed. All a great imagery right there.
That's the scene where you can see things.
The humor, yeah, the
There's
humor
light
in that
scene.
sequence and overall is actually pretty tolerable. They left a few of those cringy jokes in, but with less of them, he feels more just socially inept and a little awkward, and like this is his first day. He's never
Instead of being
interacted with.
told that he's socially inept in very blatant ways. So
Yeah.
it definitely fits
It's
the
much
character.
better. We get some emotional stuff from him, which I never expected going into this, so I very much enjoyed it. With the stuff with his dad, and of course later in the final action sequence, he saves the day. Honestly, Flash is the hero of this movie, and I was just supremely surprised and delighted by that.
I think he's the one that really benefits from a steady directorial hand.
Yeah.
Because not only does he have more than just comic relief moments, he is consistently not very good at being the Flash
Yeah.
up until his big turn at the end. And I think that makes his character feel a lot more natural, right?
Yeah.
Everything he does feels in character because he's written to not just be a cutaway from an emotional moment for that
Yes.
quick one-liner. And I think that makes him so much more effective. And even the jokes that I didn't like in Justice League,
Mm-hmm.
I think felt better here.
Yes, because
Well, I think because there's more space between them.
And there's less cringy ones to pile on top of them. Yeah.
No weird racial humor this time around.
No falling on some boobs. No falling on some boobs.
Also true. I did mention that, or I wanted to mention that the fist bump that Flash and Cyborg have at the very end doesn't have the setup and payoff of the racially charged fist bump in the graveyard scene. But that's obviously a joke. I don't give a shit. They have a fist bump, whatever. But it is funny that they have the fist bump, and I noticed in that movie in 2017. Holy shit! This fucking movie.
Justice League.
Yeah, I don't want to say that, but no. Whatever. But Flash, I think, as you said, I think is the one that turns the best out of this.
Yes, absolutely.
He feels like there's setup and payoff and a character arc for him, and he doesn't feel as annoying. And every time we would see him on screen, it was like, okay, well, is he going to have a moment of connection with someone else? Is he going to develop his character in this scene or something? I was excited to see him show up rather than God damn it.
I wasn't dreading whatever was going to come out of his goddamn mouth.
He still does. He still does his run.
He still has the dumb run, but I hate this character less. So or it could be like a Stockholm syndrome of the running, and I could just be like getting accustomed to it. But nonetheless, I liked Flash's character overall better. He's much, much, much better.
Yeah.
And so is Cyborg. Who Abrams, in our Justice League review, alluded to. Zack Snyder wanted to make him the heart of this movie, the heart of the team, even. And I think that holds pretty true, actually,
in some
to
ways,
this
sure.
film. We get a lot of characterization between him and his father, Silas. We get some background to his powers. And so it's not just he can hack anything, and he's a Deus Ex Machina, as Tucker said in our previous.
He still is, but now someone tells him that he can.
Yes, that they explain it. So it's better in that respect. Yes. What do you guys think about Cyborg?
Well, I think he's also like the Flash, whereas maybe he's still Deus Ex Machina, but he's more than just that now, which I think makes his other moments better. And also fixing the software glitch is a little bit better than I'm just gonna make your plane fly faster.
Yeah.
So I think that overall he's smoothed out. I think Ray Fisher is very charismatic. I think he gives a great performance, and he's just given some really visually exciting sequences. I like the sort of getting into the mainframe and contextualizing it, like when he refills that woman's bank account.
Yeah,
I think he just has a lot of really great moments.
Yeah, I think that sequence where intercut between him learning to be a hero with the fact that he can hack money into existence. He like builds money out of nothing and then pours it into a bank account. It's all obviously just visualizations of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is intercut with him learning to fly, which I think is which is good. It's not anything super standout, but I'm glad that they give him a moment of realizing what his powers are. And I think that sort of expands the rest of his character, which he's not my favorite character in the movie, but I think the fact that he is given emotional moments. I think the fact that his relationship with his father is so fleshed out. We sort of get 2 origin stories for him. You get the football scene, which is entirely in slow-mo for no fucking reason, and with the car crash, and then you also get his origin story in relation to the history of the mother box, as the mother box, or the third mother box, the box of men, as it's reaching his father's hands, and then how his father used it to rebuild him and be a father twice over.
Twice over.
But I thought that worked really well. It gives him a lot of context.
By the way, I know we're trying to go character by character, but I think this is a good segue into the fact that the mother box
I was actually
captures
just
are
going
handled so much better.
I was actually going to pivot into that because yes, I just wanted one more note on Cyborg. He actually has a reason to sacrifice himself at the end, to be the guy who's like, I'm gonna tear apart the mother boxes, not only because he's made of one, but because his father sacrificed himself in that same respect.
Yeah.
And yes, the mother box origins, the origins of that entire plot line, what they are, how they work, it's baffling. It's night and day, like Abram said. The difference between 2017 and Snyder Cut, because it's all pretty interesting in most respects, I'd say.
The old god battle. I'm not big on CGI fuck fests, which we'll get into by the time we reach the climax of the film again. But I think that the old gods battle was awesome.
I agree. It was
with Darkseid arriving and seeing everybody. It really just there's a weight to these, both that, and then I know, Tanner, we talked about disagreeing about the Themyscira mother box. I think it's so much better here. Same with the Atlantis one. I think they're all great.
The same.
I'd say it's roughly the same. It looks better. I will give it. It looks better, which is my main problem with the Themyscira scene. It looks better in Zack Snyder's Justice League just because the brightness is lowered, so there's less compositing errors in that scene. It's certainly longer, certainly has more slow-mo, which is sort of the MO of Zack Snyder's Justice League, but we've addressed those problems already.
The reason why I think it's better is because Steppenwolf, which we'll talk about, he's less this unfeeling, invincible big boy that comes down. I like that you actually see the Amazons fight him, and there's a struggle there. And Tanner, you were like, why the fuck are they just going horse to horse?
Yeah.
Like there's a better sense here that there's a struggle happening, I think. And it lent that entire sequence a little weight. You're seeing the parademons fight. You're seeing them shoot Steppenwolf. I love when Steppenwolf like shrugs and the arrows break out of him.
He clenches his kegels and all his arrows snap off.
His turtle shell gets the arrows out of him.
Yeah.
Now, I think we transition a little bit to Steppenwolf.
I want to bring up something about we can do that. Because Abram, you're more knowledgeable on the Snyder-Verse than we are.
Yeah.
Is there something about the Amazons being enslaved? Because that plot
is new as far as I know.
Because that is alluded to a few times in this. I
honestly don't know. I don't know if that was texture for maybe what Wonder Woman 2 was supposed to be, or maybe that's comic lore that I don't know. You know, but I wasn't aware of that. I think that there's definitely this weird thing in the film where this was meant to set up the DC films that came after it, but now we're getting it after the DC films that were supposed to follow it.
Yes.
Which I think underserves and overserves some characters like Aquaman, which I want to talk about.
Yeah.
But
Tucker, what were you going to say?
I was just going to transition to Steppenwolf, for who I think is I'm certainly of two minds about.
Okay.
I think he is obviously a more fleshed out character.
He has motivation.
His motivation to serve Darkseid is a motivation. It's not a particularly interesting or unique one, but it is a motivation which makes it feel a little bit better why he's even there in the first place. But I don't know if I'm alone in this, but his design is not better in this. They just added more polygons, and it's kind of a, hey, look how many fucking little biddly bobs we can put on the screen, rather than an actually compelling character design.
This is the first time I think I'm going to agree with Abram, because
he doesn't open his fucking mouth.
I know that he likes we've spent enough time talking about Snyder movies. I know that Abram likes this design of Steppenwolf better because he looks. It is more polygons. You are correct. It is flashier and showier for basically the only reason of being flashier and showier, and maybe easier to animate or harder. 2017 Steppenwolf was easier to animate in scenes, but the overall
Yes.
design, he looks more like a product of the planet Apocalypse, whereas 2017 Steppenwolf just kind of looked like a vaguely alien looking guy.
Now
He
here's the thing.
looks more monstrous
I
in
don't
this one.
prefer the old one.
Yeah,
They're just both bad.
See,
I'd say it's better.
I think it's better. And look, RTX on Steppenwolf is not a humongous improvement, just aesthetic wise. I think
Yeah.
what makes him such a better character is the fact that he's contextualized in the world. And let me let you know a big fucking secret. There's like 4 good comic book villains, right? And they're dispersed between Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
I really think that what a good villain in one of these films needs to do is have a reason to be there and allow the heroes, which you actually have characterization, which you're supposed to connect to, which are the driving force of the film, to be able to play off of him. And I think he does that really well. I think he introduces some really fun lore elements. I like the idea of him being indebted to Darkseid and trying to make up for his fuck ups. I like having Darkseid as this like foreboding force. I think that the setup is just so much better. I like all of it, really. I think you went from nothing, here is the most basic thing that we need to hit so the movie can happen, to here's this well animated guy that you feel a physicality to when he's in fights, when he's being hit, when he's hitting. I think you feel him better. I think you understand him better, and I think it just works.
Yeah.
And now it's not the S tier, your Killmongers, your Zods, your fucking Jesse Eisenberg's, Lex Luthor.
Well, let's reel that one back a little bit.
But I just think it's a lot better.
I think we should pivot that into talking about Apocalypse, the puppeteer, the
No.
Thanos to Steppenwolf's
No.
Loki in this.
His name is Darkseid.
Oh, what did I say?
You said Apocalypse. That's
well,
okay.
he's from
We know what you were talking
Apocalypse.
about.
He vaguely looks like X-Men
He
Apocalypse.
does look like Apocalypse, yeah.
Just because he's big and gray and he's got a big gray head and he's all CGI'd up. But yes, he's certainly in this movie. You can't deny that.
He certainly is there and isn't very interesting and is incredibly generic and doesn't add any weight, and it's really fucking sad and disappointing.
Okay, so now that we're done lowering our voice with each word we share, because I get where you're coming from, but he's just Guardians of the Galaxy Thanos. This was he is here because Justice League 2 is going to be the Darkseid movie.
Abram, are you confirming Justice League 2 right now? Is that what you're doing?
I am sitting here and confirming Zack Snyder's Justice League 2, and I have a producer credit on the film.
Whoa!
Wow.
But no, I think
hold on. Can we put it real quick back to Justice League 2017? Tanner forgot to mention there's an absolutely ludicrous amount of producer credits for that.
Oh
film.
Yeah, I did.
If you look at the letterbox, there's an entire page.
It takes up one phone screen page. All the producers on that film,
which is wild.
Darkseid
surprised not to see Abram being among those.
Yeah,
I mean, I should be there. I mean, Darkseid is what is perfect in this film for what he's trying to be. He's backgrounded. He adds lore. He adds weight, and then he fucks off.
Yeah,
he shows up for the old gods battle. He looks cool. He gets that gnarly axe wound, and then
I was gonna say,
and then he conveniently forgets what planet he was.
I do want to talk about
the
that.
only time in his life.
Yes, thank you, Tucker. Thank you, Tucker. There's like
that's
the anti-life equation. We don't know where it is. It's on the one planet I've ever been defeated. I'll never forget that day. I will forget where it happened though. I also will forget that it's the planet that had Amazons and Atlanteans and men. I forget which one that is. Which one is that again?
Steppenwolf had a vision.
Steppenwolf did have a vision. I'll give him that.
Just like Zack Snyder.
Just like Zack Snyder. Just like a lot of people. A lot of people have visions in this movie.
That is true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll cut to a scene and is it a vision? You can't really tell until a couple of seconds and you're like, oh, I'm sure this is a vision.
Mm-hmm.
Will it play out?
I mean, there's only really one of those, and I really can't wait to have to talk about it, unfortunately.
Yeah. We'll get to that. That'll be a sort of final note and spinning off into, will they make a sequel to this? Who's to say?
Now, good Lord, if they
Tanner, I don't want to pull the curtain back, but Zoom only lets us record for 40 minutes. So before we have to cut and go to our chapter 2 of the review, do you want to talk about just in the last couple minutes before we switch calls, the chapters themselves?
Yeah, sure. Why not? That's a good segue right there.
I think they're fine. I think they serve their purpose.
Here's the thing. And this is my first point on my positives list on my note page here. I like the idea of chapter title cards. I like that it's broken down a little bit, gives you a little bit of way if you want to talk about the movie, you can talk about certain sections of it in that way. But it's also just JPEGs. It wasn't like hard to do, and it doesn't really add anything. But I think it's fun. It contextualizes it in like this sort of epic saga of needing chapters in the first place. But so I actually do like that.
Yeah. If I can just make one quick point of a cool thing that I thought could have happened in this, because there's some debate on whether this was supposed to be a Justice League Part 1 and 2 as they originally announced, but I think it's around 2 hours 15 minutes in this when they decide that when they come to the much better realization. They just come to the realization that they can bring back Superman. It's not Batman being like, "Hey, we should bring back Superman, guys." But no, they come to that realization as a team, much better in this. And there's that Superman theme, I think, there's some theme that they use for him, theme. And it's the hologram, and it's all panning around them and showing all their faces, looking at Superman's hologram on this mother box. That would have been a great ending for a part 1 of this 2-part movie series. And then what you could have done,
it works so perfectly,
is put that Martian Manhunter thing as a post credits.
It works so perfectly. It's scary. Yeah. Ending the movie on holy shit, we're gonna bring Superman back. The team is together.
I'm just saying, Zack Snyder,
mic drop in the theater.
Hire me, Zack Snyder. Don't make Abram Buner a producer. Make me a producer,
please.
I mean, it's a good idea. I just don't like storytelling like that.
You're watching storytelling like that.
Yeah. Well, no, because I don't have to wait a year for part 2.
You have to wait 4 years.
Yeah. Even Infinity War, which I think does a really nice job cutting, and then Endgame, I would have just fucking stitched them together. I'll sit there. I'll pee into like one of those little tubes on my leg if I have to.
All right.
By the way, before we cut, because we're about to have to cut, I was watching, of course, on HBO Max, believe it or not. So I could have paused, but I held my bladder the entire time.
Wow.
We stopped.
That's a theater experience right there.
Yes. We stopped at one point to grab food, and then we were back for from parts 3 to the end, and I just held my piss.
A true fan.
Well, we didn't. We've had to pee like 3 times.
We peed on the floor, actually, so we didn't hold our bladders, but we did go to the bathroom. So I feel like we should talk about the rest of the characters of the Justice League, because they are in this, and while they're not as major of improvements as Cyborg and the Flash, they're still better on the whole, I'd say.
Yeah. I think that the Trinity is much better. I think that Aquaman is basically the same. And the reason Aquaman is the same, and I talked about this a little bit before, is because in both versions, the next DC film releasing was Aquaman.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
There's a lot of setup of, okay, I'm going to kind of wrestle with my identity. And then we do that for 2.5 hours in James Wan's movie that I'm not crazy about, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he really is there just to set him up for his next film, which is why I think that he didn't get nearly as much background as Flash and Cyborg. So he's fine.
Yeah, Aquaman is fine. He's still got some of those surfer dude sensibilities that I think give him some decent characterization. There's not as much, but it's all fine.
We won't talk about it later because it doesn't make sense anywhere else, really. But when this fucking the Mortal Kombat finisher of trident through the back of Steppenwolf to punch and then fucking slice his head off at Darkseid's foot.
That's pretty cool.
It's cool. That's peak Snyder action right there.
I'd say so.
The one thing I do have to say about Aquaman, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yep.
And just Atlanteans in general, are their abilities a little bit inconsistent here? Because they can make air sometimes, but they breathe better in the air. Mara was getting choked when she was underwater, but then she made air, and she was still getting choked, but she was fine. The water still like flows, even though they're stopping the water. There's a lot of weird inconsistencies here that I think are, it's a minor point. I'm not hugely complaining about it, but just the fact that there are inconsistencies when there probably didn't need to be, it just feels a little bit weird.
I hate their weird dolphin chirping noises that they do instead of talking underwater, because they do talk underwater in Aquaman, right? They just talk underwater
the whole movie.
They don't have to make weird air pockets just so you can green screen behind them.
Do they? I haven't seen Aquaman in a while.
I think they talk underwater. I think they just talk.
Funny. And also there's color in the movie.
Well, there's lots of color in that.
You can see the characters.
Okay, Wonder Woman, we get her introduced to her in the bang sequence, which is better. It's not it feels
About the
more
same.
feels more weighty, I'd say.
Yeah. Also another very similar sequence. Like they didn't cut a
Yeah,
ton out of that one.
exactly, yeah.
I have gone on record saying that Wonder Woman is one of my favorite, if not my favorite DC characters. So I really loved seeing her here. I think I'm glad the weird romance between her and Bruce is basically gone.
Well, it's not, but
I mean,
There's they have a little moment. They have a little moment.
They have a moment, but we're not gonna like oh, I'm old Ben Affleck like fucking resetting
that
my
was
shoulder
weird.
with Gal Gadot. Like that stuff's gone. I think what's
Yeah.
here is more tasteful. I loved her action sequence. I like her moment when she's checking on the kids. I mean Gal
Yeah.
Gadot is probably the best cast of the entire DCEU.
Yeah, sure.
I think she does great as usual in this film. Just treats her so much better.
Yeah, no gratuitous butt shots, which was good.
good.
Thank you, Zack Snyder, for doing the bare minimum.
There is one when they're all jumping like off of the crawler, but then
That
you
was
see way
also-
more of Flash and Batman and
You see
Cyborg's ass.
you do
So
see
it's-
everyone's butt in
yeah,
that scene.
so it's-
fair ass showage.
Yeah,
Fair treatment.
equal opportunity
ass.
ass,
Yeah.
equal opportunity ass shower Zack Snyder.
Our king.
Batman, for some reason, it felt like there was less Batman and Superman in this for some reason, because this is twice as long, but it feels like there's less of them.
Well, Superman, I think, shows up significantly.
Yeah.
A significantly later percentage of the film in, and he doesn't do that much at all.
I appreciate them cutting out I'm a big fan of truth and justice. Thank you, Zack Snyder, for cutting that out, for cutting out most of the cringy dialogue, in fact.
So I think that they're both better. I think first to Batman, he's no longer he still gets thrown around a lot. I like that they showed that he's clearly the odd man out in terms of power set, but he can hold his own better than he could in 2017, where he was getting fucked up by literally everybody and he felt pointless in the suit. That I still think that his Bruce Wayne is better than his Batman, Ben Affleck's, and his Bruce
100%.
Wayne is great here, but I also think his Batman just feels a little bit better. He moves better. He's got some cool kicks and punches and things. He's the Arkham Batman. He's this big, heavy brawler, middle-aged Batman.
I've got to be honest.
Barrel-chested Ben Affleck.
I've got to be honest. I really think that the peak of Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne is BVS.
I agree.
He loses a ton of his charm in this one and acts more as a middleman for most things. And he also does, of course, he went through a traumatic experience. He does a 180 from BVS and is just Faith, fucking.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go collect a bunch of guys. We're all gonna be a great
Big happy
big
family.
By the way,
Yeah.
because you're right, this is dark Snyder, but this isn't gritty Snyder, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, tonally,
yeah.
it's not as gritty.
I
was totally expecting in that Wonder Woman sequence for him to for that entire bank to blow up, for them to kill a kid somehow. But I give him credit; he subverted my expectations. He didn't kill any children in this movie.
Honestly, sorry, continue.
No, I just think I think that the tone here is a little bit brighter, not only because Batman is really the force behind that. His 180 is a little bit weird. He is a character arc, but that's a fucking wide arc. I'd have to bring my protractor way over here to measure that one.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a lighter and a more humorous film, but in a way that feels still Snyder, unlike Whedon's fucking abomination.
I think my issue with Batman is not that this is a worse version than 2017, because of fucking course not. It's he has more screen time, he has more interactions. There's more time for him to exist and be developed naturally through that. But I don't think it's as interesting of a Batman, as interesting of a Bruce Wayne as BVS does. And the fact that he doesn't continue that character arc, I think, is more frustrating to me.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're at it, I'm coming to the realization, I think that's probably why I'm not as high on this movie as I could be. I came out of BVS and Man of Steel more positive than I had been before I had rewatched them. Or what I'm trying to say. I was more positive on them on a whole. I was excited to see this and how it carried out a lot of the tones and themes and unique spins on things into a larger universe with more characters and more screen time. This is kind of just a generic superhero movie with Zack Snyder visuals. I
Mhm.
mean, it's got a basic villain. Both Jesse Eisenberg and Zod were pretty subversive for superhero villains. It loses the overt, blatantly overt, but it loses those themes. It doesn't do a lot super unique with the characters, especially the ones that were already established. And in the end, it's just a MacGuffin hunt that happens to be 4 hours long. It's in 4:3 aspect ratio. I just expected so much more creativity out of this, and the
Mhm.
fact that it's just a generic superhero movie, man.
Mhm. There's an argument to be made that it's a little unfair to expect brand spanking new stuff, because we do get some totally unseen before stuff.
Well, here's the thing. Is I'm not it's not the fact that we didn't get a ton of new stuff, like entirely new storylines. Of course, there
Yeah.
were some for the characters, but just that this written film, which was his vision,
Yeah.
presumably 7 years ago, whatever the fuck,
Hmm.
does not carry over the same momentum that Man of Steel and BVS has, and I think that
Yeah.
that is
Okay.
unfortunate.
So I'm this is why I want to watch it again, because I feel that coming out of the film.
Mhm.
I do. I think that for as much as you can look at BVS as being poorly written or very convenient,
Mhm.
what I still love about that film and why I don't think this could pass it is because it feels so unique. It
Yes.
feels to me like for all of its blemishes, it is the Dark Knight Returns or the whatever analog you want to draw in the
Yeah.
comic realm to film.
Yeah.
This is a Justice League event comic brought to life, which is just inherently, I think, not as creatively ambitious.
I agree.
For me, and I think I'll come back around to this when we get to our final points in the film. This is like the DC Odyssey. It's really long, and I think for me, what makes it compelling and unique is the length, are the visual choices, but it's not necessarily the thematic material. And I think it's the thematic material and the ambition of BVS that made it stand out to me.
Yeah.
That's why I said this feels more Man of Steel, because
I agree.
Man of Steel, I don't think Man of Steel is that subversive. I think Man of Steel is pretty good, but I
Yeah.
think Man of Steel operates a lot more the way that this film operates.
Mhm.
And you can see, even if we've been talking about BVS Justice League, there's a reaction there that Snyder took. This film does feel a bit reactionary to BVS. It does not. I don't think it feels like the double down that
Yeah.
I might have been expecting.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. Is yes, I agree with you. I think honestly we're on pretty much the exact same page here, and maybe I'm just weighing that a little bit more harshly in my criticism of the film,
Mhm.
because even though I'm not a huge fan of the Zack Snyder vision of the DCEU, I have come out of those rewatches a lot more respectful of it and how he was able to create such interesting versions of the characters and have his own vision for this. And I think it's the zeitgeist hype around this movie and the fact that it's the full, director's vision finally released, all of that, and the fact that it didn't double down on that and that it was reactionary and that it did
Mhm.
lean into more tropey elements and didn't make the characters as unique as the versions that he introduced in BVS and reverse some stuff. It's not the momentum that I wanted, and even if I might have disliked that version more, I would have respected it more. And
Yeah.
I think I just don't respect this movie as much as I could have.
Interesting.
Tanner, to keep cutting you off because I think you want to say something, but because
I'm
I want
fine.
to,
I'm interested in listening to. I'm interested in listening to this.
Tucker, I think you're right in a lot of respects. To me, this feels a lot more like the DC Marvel analog that doesn't compromise what Snyder was building. It reminds me a lot of Wonder Woman 2017. It takes that darker tone. It's got this visual style to it. Of course, Snyder produced that film. I believe helped to write it. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I have derided, especially Justice League, but also even Aquaman for okay, we're swinging in the opposite direction, and this feels like a swing.
Mhm.
But I don't think you can discount the fact that this would have never worked as a theatrical release.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
100%.
that is special. I think that there are special things that Zack Snyder does that connect with me more. I love his use of slow-mo. I love his music choices. I love how he's not
Oh,
We've got to talk about both those actually. Continue,
but I think that the way Snyder directs is not just straight superhero, you know. And I don't know if the themes were there, but I think the style was there, and I think that its presentation, this 4-hour presentation, is special and it's unique, and only Snyder would have made this. So I still feel him in here,
yeah, 100%.
but it is not BVS 2 Electric Boogaloo.
yeah. I'd say that yes, it's a Zack Snyder creation. I'm not going to try to sum up what you guys just said. I think you guys had a very good both sides nuanced opinion somewhere in the middle there. I am going to push back on the music choices though, because they're so on the nose. The only
fucking
thing that
ridiculous.
differentiates this from 2016 Suicide Squad is that they're like covers and like acoustic covers of like almost hymnals, while Suicide Squad used like Eminem and stuff. I think let me look at. I made notes of these when they're introducing Aquaman. There's some lyrics that are literally there is a
Yeah.
king, there is a kingdom. I think there's one earlier. Hang on, let me find out. They told us our gods would outlive us, but they lied. Great stuff, Zack Snyder. I really wonder what you're trying to say with these. It really makes me, sit back and analyze this film and for its elements, its music choices, its soundtrack choices. I really wonder what he's trying to say. No, it is Zack Snyder in the sense that it's very on the nose. He thinks he's being deep and insightful when in fact a third grader
So
could kind of
fucking
decode
obvious.
this stuff. Yeah.
So this isn't a high IQ thing because he's kind of on the record saying this, but he treats these characters more like, like Olympians, like gods. And that does translate into BVS having visually overt symbolism to this film's soundtrack, having some very overt stuff too. But again, I what I like about it is that you said almost like covers of hymnals. I think that's special. The content of the song is really fucking obvious. But where Suicide Squad felt like a just trash,
a jukebox machine.
It was the Spotify top 20 of what's being put in fucking TikTok videos. This, I think, felt a little bit more specific to the way he depicts these characters, even if it's on the nose.
It certainly did feel Zack Snyder, and I'll never go back on that point. It certainly feels like Zack Snyder. What else?
I've got to also go. Do you have other songs to rag on?
No, I think that those were really the only two. I'm sure there were others, and
I do want to say quickly, I like that he included that nice iteration of Hallelujah in the credits. I thought that he was going to
credits.
No,
oh,
we skipped over them.
He includes Hallelujah in there after the 4 Autumn dedication.
Yeah, that was nice.
It is really nice. I was a little bit worried that he was going to shove it into the film itself, and then it would have felt out of place. I think it did tastefully. I also, because I don't think there's a reason to bring it up anywhere else, I really liked the subtle pulling out, and you see the "You're Not Alone" suicide prevention billboard. I thought that was a nice moment and important, not only in the context of the film's creation, but just in the context of having mental health awareness and things in these sorts of movies. It was subtle, but I think it worked. So I wanted to shout that out too.
We would be remiss not to mention the classic new addition to the score, Ancient Lamentation music.
Oh, sad lamentation music.
It shows up
numerous times.
And not only it's fine for what it is, but does it fit the tone? Most times, nope.
It works in the Themyscira scenes, because that's where they introduce it, and so you immediately associate with that, and it fits those scenes tonally.
It's so obvious that he wants you to associate it with the Amazonians. Every time a fucking Amazonia is on the screen, it's like, oh, la, 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 fucking background, and I'm like, oh.
So
So ham-fisted.
believe it or not, I liked it. I don't know. I like the way Snyder uses music. That was not nearly as tasteful as the way he uses the other themes.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
Yes.
I like the subtle Hans Zimmer Superman theme because I'm tired of the da 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 na na. Fucking Superman Returns use that song every 5 minutes.
Hmm.
I think Zack Snyder is better at having restraint with these character music, except for this one. You're right. This one
Yeah.
shows up. Wonder Woman fucking looks off screen and they play the little fucking song, which was.
But here's the thing. I think the problem is the juxtaposition between how he used this new theme, which was very ham-fisted and very clearly intended for you to relate it to something, and the surprisingly subtle ways he used some of the other character themes. I think the Wonder Woman theme in this movie is used fantastically. It comes up only in situations where it fits the tone. And it sounds really cool because there are some remixes of it.
Exactly.
And I'm happy with that. It's such a juxtaposition with fucking ancient lamentation music, which is what the subtitles called it. I don't know. It's not subtle. It's very ham-fisted, and I think if it had been used more sparingly in situations that were intended to be sad or epic, and not necessarily just in any scene with a fucking Amazonian in it, that's an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But I think it could have been cool, but he didn't have any restraint on that one.
Yeah.
But I've also, Abram mentioned a couple things earlier that Tanner had his reaction to the music one. I had my reaction to the slow-mo one because I think some of the slow-mo shots in this are cool, but I don't know if there's any way to defend how overused it is, because it does end up going away in the sort of second half of the film for a good amount of it, but for that first half before the team is assembled, every action sequence, every emotional sequence is slow motion.
Yeah.
When it's not necessary, when it doesn't fit the tone, and it doesn't carry the weight that a slow motion shot should have, because a slow motion shot should be, oh, this isn't slow motion, okay, I should pay attention.
Sure.
But if most of a scene is in slow motion, it doesn't carry the weight of the slow motion by default, by the definition of weight for a technique. You can't overuse something and expect it to work as well in every situation.
Yeah. Okay.
I just in my quick defense.
Yeah.
I again, it comes back to me liking the idea that these are like operatic gods and Olympian figures. I like the melodrama of the glory shots that Zack Snyder has. So for me, they work through that lens. It's definitely overused. I'm not gonna, and not only is it overused, he takes his time. When we're in slow-mo, you can go and make a sandwich and come back, like the kid behind me in the fucking kitchen was. But I think that for me, it's
why he's cooking for 2 hours, because there was 2 hours of slow-mo in this movie.
For me, again, this is a very subjective point, because you were objectively correct, but subjectively, I like the sort of I like how it, for me, brings the melodrama of the Odyssey and the Iliad. Because apparently, God fucking forbid you were allowed to compare a Zack Snyder film to anything other than comic book film. He should just stay in his lane. You know what I'm saying?
I'll get to that in my final thoughts. But I do want to talk about, do you guys have any notes on the story? It's mostly the same outside of the characterization moments that we talked about.
I don't have any notes on the story, but can we talk about Superman? Because we didn't really talk about Superman.
Yeah, fair. Let's talk about Superman.
Well, he doesn't show up much.
Doesn't do much. He has a black suit. Why do you pick the black suit?
For no reason.
No, the only reason that he has a black suit is because in the comics he wears a black suit when he comes back.
They eliminate most of the fan service except for that one.
Here's though why he's so much better, I think, because Whedon's fucking movie frames the entire thing around Superman.
True.
Correct. You are correct.
Here we're gonna open the film and there's fucking Superman flags everywhere, and there's minor acts of racism and petty theft happening because Superman's gone, and the entire film's, oh no, where's Superman? Oh no, where's Superman comes back and he beats the shit out of
I do think we get about 45 minutes of Superman, mostly Superman free in 2017 Justice League.
Yeah. But here, when Superman comes back, not only does he have a lot more genuine emotional moments with Lois and his mom, but also he comes back and he helps in the fight, but he's not the reason they win in the end. He needed to be there, but it was the Flash, it was Cyborg, it was the Team Batman created it was not just Superman. I think he's used a lot better, and while I think he might be underused, he has some really nice character moments.
I'd rather him be underused than overused, such as in Joss Whedon's movie.
And I think that what you're
League.
saying about the framing of his character is very true. I do think that it's a little bit of sort of a missed opportunity to include some elements of the world mourning Superman, because it doesn't carry over the impact of his death as well as I think that opening sequence, which I gave a little bit of shit when we reviewed 2017's Justice League, but the fact that they nixed that completely, I think was a little bit weird, because it makes it feel like, oh shit, yeah, Superman, we got to talk about Superman now. When they hit that moment, and of course there's references to him alluded to, but I think the fact that he is so backgrounded kind of makes the transition to the second half of the film being revival of him feel a little bit out of place, but it's not. It is better, and I am glad they took their time to gear up to it. However, he is underutilized. He's not as interesting of a character as he was in Man of Steel or BVS. And it's comparing a shit bar to the bar. This is not a great representation of Superman. This is not used creatively. It is better, but that's not saying much because of how low the bar 2017's Justice League set.
Okay, I want to talk about the ending of this. That includes the action scene and, of course, the alternate universe.
Well, actually, no. There's one other thing we have to talk about first.
What's that?
Martian Manhunter is in this movie.
Oh, he is. Well,
okay.
Let's use in this movie sparingly. Okay, he pretends to be Martha Wayne,
which doesn't make any fucking sense. By the way,
to tell because the character Swanwick already has a history with Lois Lane. So he could have just gone in as Swanwick, but we needed him to be Martha Wayne because we needed that Martian Manhunter reveal. Martha Kent, excuse me.
It would have been a lot funnier if it had been Martha Wayne.
Now here's the real stinger of this is that Tanner and I noticed this. Part way through the beginning of the film, you get a scene of Martha Wayne. Fuck, you've got me doing it too. Martha Kent driving away from the Kent family farm, and you don't see her for an hour and a half.
You see Lois Lane sitting on the floor.
Sitting on the floor being sad. Hour and a half gone. Which is poor pacing. It doesn't make any sense. Why would they have those in there earlier? But then when you do return to that storyline of those characters, it's Martian Manhunter. Holy shit, that's the pop of the movie. It's a reveal. Tanner fucking stands up. We're like, oh my god.
Martian Manhunter
involved in the story. We've got a new character to deal with here.
How is he going to play? How vastly different is the final act of this movie going to be with Martian Manhunter involved?
New character dynamics.
He's not. Newsflash.
And then he fucking shows up at Batman's house.
I'd like to help you.
Batman gets out of this. What the fuck? And he walks over and he's just like, oh hey, a fucking new Superman I've never met. Welcome to the team.
Glad to have you.
So that scene, I think, is really emotional and sad. But because Ben Affleck is aging really badly, and it made me sad because that was clearly filmed like 6 months ago.
Yeah, that was probably Okay, you go.
I don't even want to talk about this fucking epilogue until we actually talk about it.
Okay.
But the only, I hate to show my hand, but the only scene I didn't like of the main run of the film to where it actually ends is the scene where you get a really, I think much more genuine Lois Lane and Martha Kent scene.
Fair.
And that's fucking
thirsty.
And that's Martian Manhunter for no reason, because Martha cares about Lois. They have a relationship after Clark's death. Why didn't
Swanwick also has a relationship with Lois? Well, but they take the wind out of both of those sails.
The thing is, they don't really have much of a relationship. Of course, they're connected by their love for Clark Kent, but they haven't seen each other since the funeral, as far as we know, because Martha has not left the Kent family farm, and fucking Lois just goes for her daily walk to the fucking Superman funeral and then back to her house and sits like sad motherfucker. They don't really have a relationship, although yes, they have enough of a relationship for that scene to make sense without a fucking shapeshifter.
Yes,
correct. She's her daughter-in-law. She's her fucking daughter-in-law.
No, not yet.
No, you know what I mean. That scene really bothered me. That's the one scene of the main run of the film I didn't like at all.
Yeah.
The one scene. Holy
Wow. Okay, well here's it.
cock.
Well, I want to talk about the we're getting to the very end. So, we're getting to the very
The
end.
climax.
There's
Yes.
still other stuff to talk about.
The final battle is still a big CGI mess. It's better because they're doing teamwork and whatnot. And I really like Flash's whole deal of him winding back time. That's a very visually interesting scene. Very cool. More good Flash stuff in this. Really appreciate it.
Cyborg's thing with the mother box.
Starboard thing with
Fighting
the
off?
mother box, yeah.
Very cool.
There's some weird witches we got them set up in the
mothers.
the mothers of the boxes.
Presumably.
Presumably.
Mothers, the titular mothers.
I will say that on the whole, this film is helped a lot by the fact that it is such an improvement over Justice League. I think that is coloring some of people's perspectives, mine including.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it was so nice to not have that family here. It was so nice for us.
Oh
to
yeah,
be,
yeah.
Nondescript
You're right.
European family.
it was so nice to be in a place with a purpose. Why couldn't we find it? Because the mother boxes were hidden. But why weren't we looking there? Because it was radioactive. But it's not radioactive anymore because he's building his fucking red cocoon. All these things.
The lore of the mother boxes is much better. We said that earlier,
Yes.
but it's much better.
And I think it translates into not Superman. Batman isn't like just suicidal, no reason Batman here anymore. Like, he's got a plan, it goes wrong. He's in the Batmobile and then he gets saved because he has to, not just because like, I'm gonna fucking drive and maybe die.
And turns off his comms.
I thought that they were going to eliminate the thing of Batman being a weird loner again for no reason, even after he put together the whole team. And they do initially, because he's like, he's like, we're gonna stick to the plan, and I got an idea. But then he crashes and he turns off his comms. So they do that regardless.
I thought he just lost comms, but if not, that's weird.
He reaches over and flips him off, and then the first time he interacts with someone is he's using his comms to communicate with Barry. There's no story reason for that. There's no character reason for that. Honestly, no fucking clue why it's in there. It doesn't. It just makes him pretty much separate for most of the final climactic battle, which he's watching from above. Oh shit! He's looking down.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
He's a little bit more useful. I like, we're gonna knock a little bit harder. He comes in, he enables them to happen, like how they saves Flash. Because the problem with Justice League always, in most instances, is Batman has really no purpose to ever be here for any of these things. He feels more integral here. And I just think the final battle, it's still a CGI clusterfuck, which I'm not crazy about, but it's presented in a much more palatable way.
Especially because the parademons don't have their fear thing, which, by the way, it was kind of set up in the beginning, but then not paid off. I thought they were going to do the fear thing right, but then it was just not at all. Yeah. And also, Batman doesn't have this fucking wee thing that fucking happens to be butter for parademons, which are both good cuts. They make it feel more natural. He still pretty much instantly takes down the shield that is apparently a big deal, but then it's not. Which is unfortunate, but that's a relatively minor complaint. But on the whole, I think that the ending sequence, aside from the new stuff of Cyborg and Flash, it's pretty much the same. It is better because it has a Cyborg and Flash stuff. It has a better context. The reason for pulling apart the
no red sky.
True, there's not a red sky because what?
There is just in 2017, this sky is just red for no real reason. But it's besides the point.
Yeah, but it is. Not outside of those contexts, it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
We still have building surfing. We still got the My Mans. We still get the fucking Batmobile.
No booyah.
Good.
Okay. Are we ready to talk about the epilogue? The alternate future that sprung forth from Zack Snyder's mind, like Athena from Zeus.
I'm looking through my notes here because I know we're metally putting this into our discussion. We are having to restart our thing pretty soon. I got a couple other points. We had this idea that was set up of this Batman maybe being chased down by Star Labs because he was a suspect for the parademons thing. That would have been cool, but it was not paid off.
I mean, I don't really think that's something that's set up. Because it's immediately discarded by Gordon. Because
it is discarded by Gordon.
Because Star Labs is in Gotham.
Well, no, not the first time it happens. because it's two Star Labs employees.
It's like, who do you think this looks like?
Yeah, and then like that sounds like, and Tanner said this to me. That sounds like a moment of, oh shit, there's conflict here. Batman's gonna be pulled into this thing, and it would have been really cool. It would have introduced a character dynamic. It would have required the GCPD be involved a little bit more, but unfortunately that's dropped, and I think that's kind of sad.
But like, I don't like, you show like, hey, it's Batman. Actually, no, it's a parademon, and then the plot point ends. You know, like, it's kind of an interesting concept, but I think
it feels like it might have been part of the infamous like 6-hour cut that Zack Snyder said he might have of this.
Yeah.
I also want to just say I don't know how we're reaching our opinion of the cast as a whole, but I think this movie, with its obviously greatly extended runtime, doesn't do enough to develop the characters' bonds. It's better because they exist around each other more and we see them together more, but it is the most underwhelming version of a team film that we've seen. There's not a lot of character dynamics. There's teases of them, but not enough. They just are okay with being around each other because we see them being around with each other, and not because there are actual moments of bonding or character dynamic. That
there's certainly more of those scenes. We talked about the Wonder Woman Aquaman scene in the graveyard.
Yeah, again, only because this is longer and because it wasn't edited to shit. It is this is the bar. It's actually, no, it's a low bar because they don't have a compelling character dynamic between the group. They don't interact that much. I think it's really sad with 4 hours of runtime how they couldn't flesh out a group of characters like this.
Okay, so now is the time that we talk about the infamous epilogue. I wanted to talk about it a few times just because it might be the juiciest aspect of this film, the most creatively interesting.
Yeah.
That, of course, being a post-apocalyptic, Darkseid has taken over the Earth. Superman is his soldier and confidant, and there's a team up between Batman, Mera, Cyborg, Flash with some weird like medieval armor, and the Joker, as portrayed. And Deathstroke. I forgot. Deathstroke was the weird, bad mohawk that kind of looks like it's CGI, but not finished. The CGI overall in this scene is not finished great. And of course, yes, Jared Leto's the Joker.
So, I'm trying to recall, because I've read the comic and played both games. I believe that this is just almost straight Injustice storyline.
Huh.
The difference,
the dictator Superman, and
yes, yeah. the difference is, so basically what happens in the comics is that you can't stop Lois from dying, and then Superman snaps and kills the Joker.
Yes,
that was the only difference here.
What was Joker in the Injustice games then?
Because it's a fucking crossover comic game, you got Joker. Who gives a shit? My point being, no, but there's because there's two universes in Injustice, and Joker's in one of them, and that one crosses over to Joker's around.
It's an alternate universe.
Sure.
I'm working it through in my head. Basically, what I'm saying is I'm pretty sure that this is just another scene of the Injustice flashbacks that we had in BVS. Is what I'm saying.
It has to play into something larger, though, right? It has to be like a Justice League 2. It has to be. Why would it be in here then? Why, dear God, why?
So here's the problem. I hate this part of the film. I said before, the only thing I didn't like was the Martha stuff. I said before the film ends.
Martha Manhunter.
Martha Manhunter. That's good, Tucker. That's really good.
So this sequence is bad, and it's bad for a couple of reasons. The number one reason it's bad is because this was filmed in Zack Snyder's backyard, and you can tell because everything is a super close up with a lens flare, so you can't really tell what's going on.
It's incredible. Half the shots are blurry. Yes. They're just blurred for no reason. Most of the shots.
Zach.
Focus the camera.
It's compensating for the fact that literally this was shot low budget in his backyard. There's interviews where he talks about this. So this is very clear, and then the CGI was fucking done. Yeah. This is very clearly leverage for let me continue. This is where I'm gonna go.
I agree.
Because one of the big problems with reintroducing Snyder and the Snyder-Verse is that DC has a different trajectory. Mm-hmm. So what this is a very smart play on Zack's behalf of saying, let's capitalize on my Snyder Cut, and then here is a compelling idea for me to tell a completely non-canon story.
Yeah.
compelling.
Here's the problem.
Breathe.
Why?
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, breathe, Abram. It's okay. Let us know. What is it? What's up?
We're here to listen.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Jared Leto Joker defender in Suicide Squad. This is just not good.
Isn't it? Well, you really think that, Abram? You really think that this is it's a cartoonishly bad, but it's a meeting of the it's a meeting of the minds of two cartoonishly stupid individuals, Jared Leto and Zack Snyder, who take themselves much too seriously, and they're both just flying off the walls of this. Okay. They're like, what I can definitely just imagine them sitting in a room like, and what if he says this? Oh, that'd be really cool. And then what if Batman was like, no, I'll fucking kill you, and that'd be awesome. I can imagine that meeting in my head.
It goes from operatic.
You're having a premonition of an actual conversation.
I am, yeah.
This goes.
Wake up.
Snyder Cut goes from being operatic and directed by a very, say what you will about his vision, a very confident director, to student film Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
And it's jarring and weird.
Fools can be confident too. Fools can be confident too, Abram.
No, but a fool couldn't make Batman vs Superman.
Ooh. Good one.
Well,
no, but honestly, I haven't talked a lot about this epilogue with anyone. You telling me it's basically one for one in the Injustice storyline recolors my opinions on it quite a bit, because this is maybe it's not creative because it's just the Injustice storyline, but from the perspective of me watching it, not knowing that, this is the most creative aspect of the film, section of the film. It makes me interested for the future in a way that nothing fucking else in the actual movie does. I mean, fucking Darkseid is just gonna be a less interesting Thanos if we ever get to see him. The anti-life equation being sort of set up, like there's not a lot of interesting future building stuff in the movie itself.
Mm-hmm.
This, on the other hand, I think, while it is clearly low budget and the close-ups are really jarring from the rest of the film, I think the fact that it dumps so much lore is a little bit overwhelming, but pretty interesting. I think that team is really compelling to me. I think that there's a lot of unique stuff there that it feels like a continuation of the doubling down of something completely fresh and completely new, and the exact fucking polar opposite of the generic bar setting Zack Snyder's Justice League film that we got.
Yeah.
And I was pleasantly surprised by it. Not a huge fan of the Joker. This is better than the Suicide Squad one, in my opinion. That's a subjective thing. But it's not great. But I'm interested to see if this plays out, because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, we see this is not the only time we see this future outside of BVS, obviously. We also see towards in the middle, we get some weird like Diana with the coins on her eyes on a burning pyre, and Batman or Superman holding the severed head of Batman, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just don't make this movie.
I want to see it.
I don't want to see what because I know this is there was rumors of this team up, and I was waiting for it because the one thing I remember from these rumors is that it was Batman and Deathstroke and a few other sparse characters that were in this future, and it also plays into the final scene of this, which we talked about already, Martian Manhunter and Batman, which also looked like it was filmed about 6 months ago. But I was imagining that was going to be Green Lantern instead of Martian Manhunter, because that's what the rumor was. The rumor was that the Green Lanterns visit Bruce Wayne at his home and not Martian Manhunter. But
to that point, quickly to interject, there was just a story that came out that apparently it was supposed to be Hal Jordan, but apparently WB has other plans for that character.
Okay, yes, because it was, they were never in a shot together. It was very much back and forth. And if you go back and like watch all of Ben Affleck's lines, he never addresses him. He never says anything specific to that character. So they could just CGI in whoever they wanted hovering over that lake.
So I'm with both of you. Tucker, this is the Pokemon Legends Arceus of the Snyder Cut. And the reason I say that, and Tanner, that means nothing to you.
No,
Basically,
absolutely not.
what I'm saying is that there's a lot of potential here, and I would like to see Zack Snyder's Injustice. My problem is that it just didn't belong here.
Yes.
I just it was tactically outside of the diegesis. Can you tell I'm taking film classes? Outside the diegesis of the film, it makes sense for Snyder to put this here to get eyes on this concept and spark the fucking give us Zack Snyder's Injustice hashtag.
Yeah, restore the Snyder-Verse.
But it felt weird. It felt amateurish, and I think that dialogue is not good. I think that
No,
the dialogue was
just-
not good.
It's an incredibly ham-fisted setup for a universe that I don't find that interesting. I don't think the character dynamics will be that interesting. How does it logically come to its end? That's going to be a whole nother mess that Zack Snyder and WB and DC is going to have to go through. I just don't think it's going to be worth the final product if we ever do get it, and I don't think I want it.
I think if you can tell a contained Injustice story, and I believe Injustice, it's been so long, I believe it ends well. If you can just tell Zack Snyder's even more fucked up version of Injustice, I think it services what like Tucker wants out of a villain. Having Superman as a villain is interesting. I think that there's some pull there. This invites Snyder's version of these characters. I mean, we're talking about how good the nightmare sequence is in BVS. I have
talking about that.
I liked it. But knowing that this is in here now, I'm like, oh, he's actually going to want to do this.
I just have a hard time with the execution in the context of Zack Snyder's Justice League, because what I wanted and what I got for almost the entire runtime of this film is Zack Snyder's definitive Justice League. But this was clearly shot and tacked on, and it just doesn't feel the same. I would have rather this had been somewhere else. It was a bump at the end of the film that I didn't want. If this had been a proper nightmare BVS sequence here, okay, I would have been firmly on Tucker's side, but I just can't be with the way it was presented.
Yeah.
Sure.
We talked about we do want to do a Snyder-Verse question mark sort of video, so I think we should top off that discussion there and top off our discussion by going over our final thoughts. And if I may start,
please do.
Snyder might not be the problem here. It might be Snyder fans like you dirty son of a bitch, Abram Buhner. Because
I tweeted about the movie twice before it came out. I used the Snyder Cut hashtag 2 times.
Okay. That's fine.
You were there in spirit, though.
Oh, of course.
I went on Twitter.com and I saw somebody. I saw somebody comparing a shot from this film to a Andrei Tarkovsky shot.
Yeah.
Shot from his film Mirror. And I think what really the issue here is the Snyder fans. You guys, I'm saying this pejoratively, not speaking to you, Abram.
That's fine. I won't take it personally.
Okay.
Please do.
You guys want too much from what Zack Snyder is able to give you. Zack Snyder is not some almighty poet that he can create masterful Olympian films like Abram wants. He just kind of creates superhero films that he thinks are very heady and powerful and meaningful, when in fact they aren't. He's turning out some pretty stock standard DC stuff when you could hand the reins over to make something more fun and more interesting. But he has a rabid fan base that really, really likes what he's producing and thinks it's deeper than it actually is. And that is feeding into Zack Snyder's own his own what's the word I'm looking for?
Ego?
It's feeding into his own ego in a way. And I think that if this was the last Zack Snyder DC film, I'd be perfectly okay with that. But I just know there's going to be people. It's already trending. Restore the Snyder-Verse already trending. The epilogue scene is going to be trending, and they're somehow going to force DC to follow this path down farther when we've been critiquing it so much that it could grow into something better. But from the current track that we're on, we're in the nightmare sequence right now. My nightmare sequence of having to continue to make these sort of problematic subpar Zack Snyder DC films.
I want to go last.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I want to let you go last.
He filibustered on the BVS video. That's what happens.
I know. I feel like I've earned this.
Okay.
You know what? Fine.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. This is a better movie than Justice League.
Yes.
My comment at the beginning of rather watching 2017's Justice League, I'm not fucking saying anything. It was a little more inflammatory than like factually true. I think they are on equal grounds as much as I want to watch them, which is rewatch them, but neither of which is very much. I think this is factually a better film because it fleshes out the characters more. It's not edited to hell. But the problem I'm noticing now with Justice League 2017 is the editing, but it isn't only editing. This is not a compelling story, even when it's stretched out. It doesn't do justice to the characters, and I think in a way that is engaging. It is very clearly pretentiously put together in ways that I think alienates most viewers. The fact that the film heavily relies on slow motion clearly disregards the rules of lighting scenes. You can't have the power of a dark scene if all the fucking scenes are dark. It disregards the reality of lighting, of people wanting to be able to read when they are working on something in the fucking police department or whatever. I think there are so many issues this film has with its just general existence. It is a flat, mundane, not very interesting superhero film that happens to have the veneer of pretentiousness around it that makes you want to think, oh, hey, it's not your daddy's superhero movie.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's just worse because there's nothing to grab onto here. It's 4 hours of nothing. And maybe there's a reason Warner Brothers didn't want this going out. Maybe there's a reason editors are given their job. Maybe there's a reason most movies aren't 4 hours. The 4-hour runtime did nothing to promote this movie to a status I think it could have gotten to. It is an underwhelming end to this saga that's been released, the Snyder Cut. The film itself had an underwhelming end in the story, and I'm never watching this again. It was bad, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm very disappointed, and I can't wait to not really ever talk about it again.
I want to make a quick tack on to my thing, because I might have angered some Snyder fans with that statement, and they might accuse me of being a Marvel shill, which I am in part. But let me just say this.
Check out Untitled Marvel Project starting tomorrow.
Exactly.
Again
Starting
for
tomorrow.
Winter Soldier.
we break down those. But here's the thing. People who take the Marvel movies too seriously are also dumbasses, okay? It's all just fun. I have fun with it. We can do a larger video. I can do a rant about people who shit on the Marvel movies too much, who love the Marvel movies too much. But and I said this, and Tucker also said this. My problem with Snyder is that he takes himself too seriously, and by proxy, his fans take him too seriously and take themselves too seriously. And it's this vicious cycle of them sort of harming what this franchise might be.
I feel like I've got two final statements to make. I think
Okay.
the first one is about the larger cultural complex that surrounds this film.
Sure.
From my perspective, I really think that a lot of this discourse is created by the anti-Snyder crowd. I'm not talking about you guys per se, because
Okay.
I think
You can say it's us.
I don't think it's you. I think it's some of the members of our Discord for sure.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Not naming names who talk.
Join the Discord to find out. Join the Discord to find out who they are.
No one in our Discord is going to get this point in the video.
No, absolutely not. That's why.
Oh.
That's funny. Basically, I think that the anti-Snyder response is predicated on this almost gate-kept perception that Snyder can't and shouldn't do more than he does. And from my perspective, I really feel like I hate bringing up this idea of a Marvel bias, because I think that those are just solid films. As much as I pretend I don't like Marvel, I've seen all the fucking MCU movies. I like Marvel a lot, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's a leg room given there and a creative liberty allowed that as soon as Snyder tries to take it, his head's cut off. And I think it's fair when you look at BVS, you look at its missteps, you look at Man of Steel, his missteps, his Watchmen missteps. It's fair, but I think it has reached a fever pitch where there is this preemptive anti-Snyder hate that muddies this whole conversation and creates this incredibly reactionary and equally toxic pro-Snyder fan base, which just jumps back down the throats. The whole thing is uncomfortable, but I personally, again, this is my situation in it, I point that blame more towards the immediate and unsubstantiated anti-Snyder crowd, because I think there's a couple different anti-Snyder subsects.
Mhm.
But I agree with Tucker. I don't want to talk about the context of this film ever again, because it was a great cultural moment. I do think that this is a great moment for an artist, call him a good artist, a bad artist, for an artist's vision being restored.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's a strong moment for fans. It's a strong moment for Snyder, and a lot of good has come out of this. There's been a lot of charitable donations. There's been a lot of attention brought to various causes. I think it has been, on the whole, a net positive that has been dragged down by bad actors that want to gatekeep what a comic book film should be. That said, I did not love Snyder Cut as much as I thought I was going to, because Snyder Cut is not 4 hours. I said at the beginning, it's not 4 hours of BVS. It's not. You can call it quasi, I'll call it just actually heady deconstruction of superhero stuff. That's not what we got here.
Yeah.
Tucker is right. This is a more straightforward comic book story. But for me, I do think the 4 hour runtime elevates it, because this for me is an event. Watching this film is an event, seeing these scenes unfold as an event. I do think there's an opera to this. I do think that you can invite comparisons, not to the literary merit or to the influence, but to something like the Odyssey. This is these Olympic characters being told in a long format with a presentation that fucking reveres them. I think if you want to talk about Snyder's other films critiquing its heroes, this one reveres them, and that's interesting to me. And so for me, I was really riveted from front to end. I had my attention span has gone through the fucking floorboards in the last couple months of my life, but I sat down and watched this. I was gripped the entire time. I think these characters are charismatic. I think Zack Snyder's filming style, everything he does speaks to me. And the product was something that I immediately wanted to watch again, and I will be watching it this weekend before we talk about it on BLBS. I was very happy with it, but I wasn't blown away. Right now, it's situated comfortably as probably my third favorite DCEU film, BVS, Wonder Woman, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Because I think this gave me the realized Justice League film I wanted, with the Zack Snyder flair that I love. I agree with your criticisms to an extent, both of you, but it hit different. And I think this film has a lot of merit that is going to get stomped on immediately. But I also think a lot of the conversation around this positive and negative is informed by Justice League, which I'll keep calling it that till I die, informed by all of the Warner Brothers stuff, all of the leaks. It's a product of the zeitgeist. And I want the Snyder-Verse restored, and that's where I'll leave it.
Okay. It's unapologetically Snyder, and it is a cultural event. I will concede those 2 points. I'll agree with you there. But folks, if you made it through the Snyder Cut and you made it through the entirety of this video,
You deserve an Oscar.
Hats off to you, honestly. You deserve an Oscar. You deserve to subscribe to the channel and witness more of our great, fantastic content. You deserve to join our Discord to yell at us or agree with us, or in any combination of those reactions. But regardless, thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you for keeping up with our series Into the Snyder-Verse. We love you all very much, and I don't know what else is there to say other than we live in a society. That line is not in the final cut of the movie, and it was only put in there for the trailer to gain attention that was unearned. It was unearned because that line wasn't in the movie, and and nothing else. It's a cheap imitation. It's a cheap trick, Jared Leto. I'm gonna get you one of these days.